Help! Please, someone help me! This desperate cry echoed through the frozen mountains of Colorado and changed my life forever. I am Jake Morrison, 23 years old, and I work as a cowboy on farms scattered across Larimer County. That day in December 2023 was supposed to be just another routine job, transporting cattle to the Henderson Ranch, about 50 kilometers north of Fort Collins. But fate had other plans for me. If you're watching from Brazil, leave a like. And if you're from the United States, comment below which state you're from. It was around 4 p.m. when the snow started falling harder. I was driving my red Ford F-150 pickup down the dirt road, with a trailer full of hay for the animals. Visibility was getting bad, and I knew that area like the back of my hand. I knew I needed to find a place to wait out the storm. That's when I spotted a somewhat abandoned property at the end of a steep trail. The main house looked inhabited. There was a yellowish light in the kitchen window and smoke coming from the chimney. But what caught my attention was the general state of the place: broken fences, peeling paint, and a heavy silence that seemed to surround everything. I stopped the truck in front of the rusty gate and got out to introduce myself. I was always taught to be respectful to property owners. My father, God rest his soul, always taught me that a real cowboy asks for permission before stepping onto someone else's land, even in emergencies. I was walking toward the porch when I heard it. Help! Please, someone help me! I've been here for so many years. I stopped right there. The scream was coming from somewhere near the house, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly where. I looked at the windows. All the curtains were closed. The voice was female, young, and carried a desperation that froze my blood. Hello! Is anyone there? I shouted back, taking off my brown Stetson hat and running my free hand through my blonde hair. Are you okay? Here! I'm here behind the house. In the chicken coop. Please, don't leave. Chicken coop? I quickly made my way around the house, my boots crunching on the accumulated snow. There was a wooden structure in the back, falling apart. At first glance, it seemed like just an abandoned chicken coop, but as I got closer... My God! There was a padlock on the door. Can you hear me? I'm in here. My name is Emma. My heart started pounding. I approached the deteriorating wooden door and could hear movement from the other side. There was really someone locked in there. Emma, is that you? Are you locked in there? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm despite the shock. Yes. My stepmother locked me in here when I was 10. My dad died, and she said I was a burden. Please, get me out of here. Her voice was choked, as if she had been crying. 8 years? This girl had been locked in there for 8 years? I looked around quickly. The main house was silent, but I knew I had to act fast. I grabbed a metal bar that was leaning against the chicken coop wall, probably used for some repair, and positioned it on the padlock. Emma, step back from the door. I'm going to break the padlock. Thank you. God bless you. With a firm motion, I pried it. The padlock was old and rusted, and it gave way with a crack. I pushed the door open carefully. What I saw stayed with me for the rest of my life. Emma was huddled in the corner of the small room, trembling. She was too thin, had long, tangled brown hair, and wore clothes that seemed like they'd been washed 1,000 times. Her green eyes were wide, as if she couldn't believe someone had actually shown up. But what impressed me most was that, despite everything, the thinness, the worn-out clothes, the horrible conditions, there was a light in her eyes. A strength that 8 years of imprisonment hadn't extinguished. Are you real? She whispered. I'm real, Emma. My name is Jake. I'll get you out of here right now. She slowly stood up, as if unsure her legs would support her. When she took the first step toward the door, she stumbled slightly. Instinctively, I reached out my arm to steady her. That's when she hugged me. It wasn't just any hug. It was the hug of someone who had lost all hope and suddenly found it again. She clung to me as if I were the only real thing in the world, and I felt her tears soaking into my flannel shirt. Thank you, she kept repeating between sobs. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I stood there, holding that girl I didn't know, feeling the weight of 8 years of suffering in her embrace. In that moment, I knew my life had changed forever. Emma, I said softly, let's get out of here. You will never be locked up again. She pulled back slightly to look me in the eyes. There was so much to say, so many questions to ask, but at that moment, only one thing mattered, getting her out of there. That's when I heard an angry voice coming from the house. Emma! What's going on out there? Emma flinched immediately, fear overtaking her green eyes. It's her, she whispered. It's my stepmother, Margaret. She can't see me out here or... Emma! Answer me now. Heavy footsteps were approaching the house. I looked at Emma, who was trembling, and made a decision that would change our lives forever. Come with me. Now. I took her hand, which was as cold as ice, and we started walking quickly toward my truck. Every step in the snow seemed to echo like thunder, and I prayed we'd reach the vehicle before the stepmother showed up. Wait! Emma suddenly stopped. My backpack. There are some things from my dad, they're the only memories I have left. I looked at the chicken coop and then at the house. The footsteps were getting closer. Where is it? Under the dirty mattress, in the left corner. I ran back to the chicken coop, found the small, dusty backpack, and rushed back. When we got to the truck, I heard the house door open. Emma! Where are you? I quickly opened the passenger door and helped Emma get in. Her hands were shaking so much she could barely grip the seatbelt. I circled the truck in seconds and started the engine. That's when Margaret appeared on the porch. Guys, if you're enjoying this story, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. You won't believe what happens in the next chapter. She was a tall woman, around 45 years old, with gray hair tied in a tight bun. Her eyes were as cold as the Colorado winter, and when she saw us in the truck, her expression turned into pure fury. Come back here now, you ungrateful little brat, she yelled, coming down the porch steps and running toward us. I floored the accelerator. As we pulled away, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw Margaret standing in the middle of the road, shouting things that the wind blew away. Emma was hunched in the passenger seat, sobbing. It's over, I said to her, keeping one hand on the wheel and gently placing the other on her shoulder. You're free now, Emma. You'll never go back to that place. She lifted her head and looked at me with those green eyes filled with tears. Where are we going? It was a simple question, but one that carried the weight of an entire life. Emma had nowhere to go, no family, nothing but the clothes on her back and a backpack with memories of her dad. To my house, I answered without hesitation. You'll stay with me until we figure out what to do. For the first time since I found her, I saw a small smile appear on her face. As we drove down the snow-covered roads of Colorado, with the Rocky Mountains towering majestically around us, I had no idea I was taking home not just a girl who needed help, but the person who would become the love of my life. But this is just the beginning of our story. The trip to my house took almost 2 hours due to the snow, but it was the most revealing 2 hours of my life. Emma remained silent for most of the journey, looking out the window as if she were seeing the world for the first time. And maybe she was. Jake, she said as we passed through Loveland, what's it like, living in a real family? The question caught me off guard. I stopped at a red light and looked at her. Her green eyes were filled with childlike curiosity, as if she were a child asking about a distant country. What do you mean, Emma? I don't really remember how it was before my dad died. It was just the two of us, you know? And after Margaret came into our lives. She swallowed hard. She always said I was a burden, that real families didn't have a place for people like me. My heart tightened. I held her cold hand. Emma, look at me. Margaret was wrong. Completely wrong. You'll see. Folks, if you're following from the beginning, leave a like. And if you know someone who's been through something similar, send them this video. When we arrived at my family's ranch, it was almost 7 p.m. Our property is 20 minutes from Estes Park, surrounded by the snow-capped peaks of the Rocky Mountains. The main house is made of wood, with a rustic Colorado style, and a large porch where my mom always puts rocking chairs in the summer. Emma slowly got out of the truck, as if she were stepping on sacred ground. She looked at the lit house, the smoke coming from the chimney, the golden lights shining from the windows. It's beautiful," she whispered. Before I could respond, the front door opened, and my mom, Sarah Morrison, appeared on the porch. At 52, she had gray hair always tied in a braid and the warmest smile in the world. "Jake! Thank God you're here. We were worried about this snow." She stopped when she saw Emma. "Oh, dear, did you bring a friend?" "Mom, this is Emma. She's going to stay with us for a while." My mom immediately stepped down from the porch. One thing about Sarah Morrison, she had the gift of reading people. Just one look at Emma, her worn clothes, messy hair, scared eyes, and she understood that something was very wrong. "Emma, dear, you must be freezing. Come, let's go inside. I just made some beef stew." Emma looked at me, as if asking for permission. I nodded, and we walked into the house together. Once inside, the contrast was striking. The living room was warm and cozy, with a crackling fireplace, comfortable leather furniture, and the delicious smell of homemade food in the air. There were family photos on the wall, a grand piano that my sister played, and that feeling of home that only a united family can create. Emma stopped at the entrance, frozen. "Emma? Are you okay?" I asked. She was crying. Silent tears were running down her thin face. I'd never seen a house like this," she whispered. "It's like the movies I used to watch with my dad." My mom gently approached. "Emma, can I give you a hug, dear?" Emma nodded, and my mom wrapped her in a maternal embrace. I saw Emma melt into that hug, as if 8 years of emotional neglect were being healed in that moment. "Welcome to our home," my mom said softly. "Here, your family." That's when my dad, Robert Morrison, entered the room. At 55, he was a tall, strong man, with a graying mustache and callous hands from a lifetime of working with cattle. He stopped when he saw Emma. "Dad," I said quickly, "this is Emma." My dad had the same intuition as my mom. He walked slowly toward her, took off his hat, and extended his hand to Emma. "Nice to meet you, Emma. I'm Robert. Anyone who's a friend of Jake is a friend of ours." Emma looked at the outstretched hand as if it were something precious, then shook it timidly. "The pleasure is mine, Mr. Morrison. Call me Robert, dear." Mr. Morrison was my father. For the first time since I met her, Emma smiled for real. During dinner, my family was amazing. No one asked intrusive questions about Emma's past. Instead, my mom filled her plate with beef stew, mashed potatoes, and homemade bread. Emma ate like she hadn't had a decent meal in years, which was probably true. My younger sister, Lily, 16, came home from school during dinner. She was the opposite of shy and immediately started talking about her day, including Emma in the conversation as if she had known her for years. "Emma, do you like horses? We have some beautiful ones here on the ranch. I can show you tomorrow." I've never ridden a horse," Emma admitted. "Really? Oh, you're going to love it. Jake is the best teacher. He taught me." I saw Emma look at me with something like admiration. I was starting to see that she was discovering a whole new world. After dinner, my mom took Emma to the guest bathroom. "Dear, there are clean towels here, shampoo, conditioner, soap. Feel free to take a nice hot shower. In the meantime, I'll grab some of Lily's clothes for you." "I can't accept," Emma began. "Nonsense. It's what we do for family." While Emma took a shower, I quickly explained to my parents what I had found. My mom was horrified, my dad was furious, and Lily was in shock. 8 years, my mom repeated, incredulous. That woman kept a child locked up for 8 years? We need to call the police, my dad said, clenching his fists. Let's go, Dad. But first, Emma needs to feel safe. She went through a terrible trauma. An hour later, Emma came down the stairs. She had taken a shower, washed her hair, and was wearing one of Lily's shirts and a pair of jeans that my mom had quickly adjusted. The transformation was impressive. But it wasn't just the physical appearance. There was something different in her eyes. A light that was slowly returning. How do you feel? I asked. Like a person, she replied simply. That night, we prepared the guest room for Emma. It was simple but cozy, a double bed with a patchwork quilt my grandmother had made, a wooden oak dresser, and a window with a view of the mountains. Emma stood at the door of the room, looking at the bed. Problem? I asked. It's a real bed, she said, touching the quilt with reverence. For 8 years, I slept on a thin mattress on the dirty floor. My heart broke a little more. Emma, this is your bed now. For as long as you need. She turned to look at me, and I saw she was crying again. Why are you doing this for me? You don't even know me. It was a deep question, and it deserved an honest answer. Because everyone deserves to have a family, Emma. Everyone deserves to feel at home. And because. I hesitated, because from the moment I saw you in that chicken coop, I knew you were special. She looked at me for a long moment, then took a step forward and hugged me again. But this time, it was different. It wasn't the desperate hug of someone being saved. It was the hug of someone who was beginning to trust again. Thank you, Jake, she whispered. For giving me a chance to be human again. That night, as I lay in my room, I couldn't stop thinking about Emma. How she reacted to simple things like a hot shower, a family meal, a soft bed. How her eyes lit up when Lily talked about horses. How she had smiled when my dad made a silly joke during dinner. Emma was blooming, and it was beautiful to see. But I also knew the real challenges were just beginning. Margaret wouldn't give up easily. And Emma carried the scars of 8 years that wouldn't disappear overnight. Still, that night, for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be. Folks, do you see how a real family can change someone's life? Subscribe to the channel to see how Emma will react when she discovers the truth about the inheritance Margaret hid from her. 3 weeks had passed since I brought Emma home, and watching her transformation was like witnessing a flower bloom after a harsh winter. She had gained weight, her brown hair was shining with health, and that shy smile was appearing more and more. But it was on a cold January morning that our lives took a completely unexpected turn. Emma was in the kitchen helping my mom make apple pie when the phone rang. It was Dave Henderson, the family lawyer here in Estes Park. Jake, I need to talk to you urgently, said Dave's deep voice. It's about Emma. My blood froze. What happened? I can't talk over the phone. Can you come to my office today? And bring Emma. She needs to be present. An hour later, we were sitting in Dave's law office, which was in a Victorian house converted into a legal practice in the historic center of Estes Park. Emma was nervous, holding my hand tightly. She wore a pink sweater Lily had given her and jeans my mom had bought, finally, clothes that were truly hers. Dave was a man in his 60s, with white hair and an impeccable reputation in the county. He placed a thick file on the table and looked at us seriously. Emma, I need to ask you an important question. What was your father's full name? Thomas William Hartley, she answered immediately. Why? Dave opened the folder and took out some documents. Because I received a call from a law office in Denver yesterday. They've been looking for you for years. Emma straightened up in her chair. Looking for me? Why? Emma, Dave said gently, your father left a substantial inheritance when he died. An inheritance that should have gone to you when you turned 18. The silence in the office was deafening. Emma looked at me, then at Dave, as if she didn't understand what he was saying. But But Margaret always said my dad died with no money. That we had to sell everything to pay his debts. Dave shook his head gravely. Margaret lied to you, Emma. Your father owned a mining company in Colorado Springs. When he passed, he left everything to you in a trust fund that was supposed to be released when you turned 18. Folks, are you following this twist? Leave a like if you already suspected there was something wrong with Margaret. Emma turned pale. How much money? Dave consulted the papers. Approximately $2.3 million, Emma. Plus the house you originally lived in Colorado Springs, which is worth about $800,000. Emma fainted. When she came to, she was lying on the office sofa, with my jacket covering her shoulders. The first thing she did was look at me. Jake, did I dream? Did Dave really say that? It's true, Emma, Dave said, sitting in a nearby chair. You're a very wealthy young woman. And Margaret Hartley committed a serious crime by keeping you locked up and hiding this information from you. Tears started rolling down Emma's face, but this time they weren't tears of sadness. It was relief mixed with anger. She made me believe I was a burden, Emma whispered. That I wasn't entitled to anything. That I should be grateful she gave me a roof over my head. The roof was yours, Emma, Dave said firmly. The house was yours. The money was yours. Margaret usurped your inheritance and kept you captive so you would never discover the truth. I felt a burning rage in my chest. Margaret wasn't just cruel, she was a criminal. What do we do now? I asked. First, we go to the bank to release Emma's funds. Then we go to the police. Margaret will face charges for kidnapping, embezzlement, and a dozen other crimes. Emma slowly got up from the sofa. I want to go to the house, she said. Emma, you don't have to. I started. No, Jake. I want to go there. I want to get my dad's things that were left behind. And I want to look Margaret in the eyes when she finds out that I know the truth. There was a new strength in Emma's voice. The scared girl I had found in the chicken coop was turning into a determined woman who knew what she wanted. 2 hours later, we were in a caravan of 3 cars heading to the property where Emma had been trapped for 8 years. Dave was driving the first car with 2 police officers. Emma and I were in the second, and my parents were in the third. Are you sure you want to do this? I asked for the third time. Emma was looking out the window, watching the familiar snow-covered mountain landscape. Jake, for 8 years I believed I was invisible, that I didn't matter to anyone. Now I find out my dad loved me so much that he secured my future even after he was gone. I need to honor that memory. She turned to look at me, and I saw a determination that made me proud. Besides, she continued, with a small smile, Margaret needs to know she didn't break me. When we arrived at the property, Margaret was on the porch, as if she had been waiting for us. She was wearing the same dark dress as always, with her arms crossed over her chest. Her cold eyes locked on Emma the moment we got out of the car. So the ungrateful brat decided to come back, she said with contempt. Did you bring your little friends to intimidate me? Emma walked toward the porch with firm steps. I walked beside her, ready to intervene if necessary. Hello, Margaret, Emma said, her voice calm and controlled. I came to collect my father's things. Margaret laughed mockingly. What things? You don't have a right to anything on this property. That's when Dave approached, followed by the police officers. Actually, Margaret Hartley, this property belongs to Emma. Just like the money you've been hiding from her for 8 years. Margaret's expression changed instantly. The mockery turned to panic. I don't know what you're talking about. We know everything, Margaret, one of the officers said, taking out the handcuffs. Margaret Hartley, you're under arrest for kidnapping, embezzlement, child abuse, and fraud. As they read Margaret her rights, Emma walked into the house. I followed her, along with my parents. The house was exactly as I imagined, cold, dark, with old furniture and an air of abandonment. But Emma went straight to a room that had obviously been her father's office. He used to bring me here when I was little, she said softly, touching a dark wooden desk. I'd sit on his lap while he worked. Behind the desk was a bookshelf with books and framed photos. Emma picked up a photo showing her at 8 years old with a tall, smiling man, clearly her father. He was so good to me, she whispered. He always called me his little princess, saying he'd do anything to protect me. And he did, Emma, my mom said, gently placing her hand on Emma's shoulder. He secured your future. Emma nodded, holding the photo close to her chest. I want to take everything that was his. The photos, the books, the documents. I want to know more about the man he was. We spent the whole afternoon gathering Thomas Hartley's memories. We found photo albums showing baby Emma, letters he'd written to her when he traveled for work, and a journal where he expressed his unconditional love for his daughter. But it was in the attic that we made the most emotional discovery. Jake, come see this. Emma called me. She was kneeling in front of a wooden chest. When she opened it, her eyes filled with tears. Inside were doll dresses, toys, children's storybooks, and a sealed letter with the name to my Princess Emma on the day she becomes a woman. With trembling hands, Emma opened the letter. It was handwritten by her father. My dear Emma, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer here to protect you personally. But I want you to know that you were the greatest joy of my life. You are strong, intelligent, and kind. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. The money I left for you is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that you know you are loved unconditionally. Be happy, my little princess. You deserve all the love in the world. With eternal love, Dad. Emma cried so much I thought her heart would break. But when she lifted her head and looked at me, I saw something beautiful in her eyes. He knew, she said. Somehow, he knew I'd need to hear this. That night, back at the ranch, Emma was different. She was no longer the scared girl I had found. She was a woman who knew her worth. We were sitting on the porch, looking at the stars shining over the Rocky Mountains, when she said something that changed everything. Jake, I love you. My heart stopped. Emma. No, she interrupted. Let me speak. For 8 years, I believed I was invisible, that I didn't deserve love. But you showed me I was wrong. You saved me, gave me a family, helped me discover who I really am. She took my hand. I love you, Jake Morrison. Not because you saved me, but because you saw me when no one else did. Because you believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I looked at that amazing woman in front of me, strong, brave, beautiful inside and out, and I knew my life would never be the same. I love you too, Emma Hartley, I said, gently touching her face. Since the moment I saw you in that chicken coop. Our first kiss happened under the stars of Colorado, with the mountains as witnesses. It was perfect. Folks, if you're crying along with me, leave a like. And comment, which part moved you the most? But our story was far from over. Because Margaret, even in prison, had made one last move that none of us expected. In the last chapter, the final revelation that will shock everyone and the ending that will make you cry with emotion. 6 months had passed since Emma discovered her inheritance, and our life felt like a fairy tale. She had used part of the money to completely renovate my family's ranch, transforming it into the most beautiful place in the Rocky Mountains. She also created a foundation to help vulnerable young people, her way of ensuring that no child would ever go through what she went through. But it was on a warm July morning that we received the call that would change everything again. It was Dave Henderson, our lawyer, and his voice was tense. Jake, Emma, you need to come to my office immediately. Margaret has contacted the prison. She says she has information about Emma's father that will change everything. Emma was by my side in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. When she heard Margaret's name, her face went pale. What does she want now? She asked, taking my hand. I don't know, dear. But Dave said it's urgent. An hour later, we were back at Dave's office. But this time, there was a computer screen set up for a video conference with the prison. Before we start, Dave warned us, Margaret is desperate. She might be lying to try to make some sort of bargain. Don't believe everything she says. The screen lit up, and there she was, Margaret, wearing the prison's orange uniform. Her hair was gray and disheveled, and she looked like she had aged 10 years in the last few months. Emma, she said, and her voice was strangely calm. You look beautiful. Freedom suits you. What do you want, Margaret? Emma replied coldly. I want to tell you the truth. The full truth about your father. I felt Emma tense up beside me. What are you talking about? Margaret smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone about to drop a bombshell. Your father didn't die in an accident, Emma. He was murdered. The silence in the office was deafening. Emma turned as white as a sheet. You're lying, she whispered. Lying? Margaret leaned in closer to the camera. Then why do you think I kept you locked up all those years? Out of malice? For fun? Dave leaned forward. Margaret, if you have information about a homicide, you need to speak to the police, not. I kept you locked up, Margaret continued, ignoring Dave, because I knew that one day they would come after you. And if you were free, if you knew about the money, you would be the next target. Emma began to tremble. Who? Who killed my father? His business partners in the mining company. They found out that Thomas had discovered a gold vein worth much more than the $2.3 million you inherited. We're talking about tens of millions, Emma. My blood ran cold. And you decided to keep me locked up instead of telling me the truth? Emma's voice was rising. I protected you. Margaret screamed. Do you think it was easy for me? Do you think I like seeing you suffer? But it was better for you to be alive and locked up than dead and free. For a moment, I saw something in Margaret that I had never seen before, tears in her eyes. Margaret, Dave said calmly, do you have proof of what you're saying? Margaret nodded. Thomas gave me a letter before he died. A letter that explains everything, that names the killers, and that has a map to the real gold mine. I hid that letter for 10 years. Where? Emma asked. In the chicken coop where you were locked up. Inside a metal box buried in the southeast corner. Emma stood up abruptly. Let's go get it. Now. Emma, wait. I started. No! She turned to me, her eyes full of tears. Jake, my dad was murdered. And I spent 8 years hating Margaret, thinking she was just cruel, when in reality, she was trying to protect me in her own twisted way. Folks, are you following this twist? If you're as shocked as I am, leave a like. 2 hours later, we were back at the property where Emma had been locked up. But this time, it was different. Emma had bought the property and was turning it into a rehabilitation center for at-risk youth. The chicken coop was still there, but now it served as a reminder of the past. Emma kneeled in the southeast corner of the chicken coop and began digging with a shovel. I dug alongside her, and my parents watched silently. After 20 minutes, the shovel hit something metallic. It was a metal box, the size of a shoebox. Emma pulled it from the dirt with trembling hands and opened it. Inside was a sealed letter and a detailed map. Emma opened the letter carefully. It was written in her father's handwriting. If Margaret is handing you this letter, it means something has happened to me. Emma, my princess, Daddy discovered something that greedy men would kill to hide. I found a gold vein worth more than $50 million. My partners, Richard Blackwood and James Crawford, have already made threats. If something happens to me, they will try to take what's yours. Trust Margaret. She may be difficult, but she truly loves me and will protect you at any cost. Use this map only when it's safe. I love you forever, Daddy. Emma started crying uncontrollably. She was really protecting me, she sobbed. In her terrible way, but she was. I took the map and analyzed it. It showed in detail the location of a mine about 30 kilometers away, in the mountains. Emma, I said softly, we need to take this to the police. If these men really killed your father, they will pay, she said, wiping her tears and standing up. My father will get justice. The next 2 months were a roller coaster of emotions. The police reopened the case of Thomas Hartley's death. With the letter as evidence, they were able to arrest Richard Blackwood and James Crawford. Both confessed in exchange for lighter sentences. The gold mine was real, and it was worth exactly what Thomas had estimated, over $50 million. But the biggest surprise came when Emma decided to visit Margaret in prison. Why do you want to see her? I asked as we drove to the penitentiary. Because she sacrificed 8 years of my life and 8 years of hers to keep me alive. She deserves a chance to explain. In prison, Margaret looked different. Thinner, frilier, but her eyes no longer had that coldness. Emma, she said when she saw us, you shouldn't have come. I needed to come. I needed to thank you. Margaret began to cry. I did everything wrong, didn't I? I should have told you the truth, I should have trusted the police, I should have. You did what you thought was right with the information you had, Emma said gently. You kept me alive, Margaret. You saved my life. But I made you suffer so much. Yes, you did. But you also made me strong. You taught me to value freedom, true family, love. Emma held Margaret's hand through the glass. I'll hire the best lawyers to appeal your sentence. You won't spend the rest of your life here. Margaret cried so much I thought she would dehydrate. 6 months later, Margaret was released on parole. Emma welcomed her at the rehabilitation center she had created on the old property, where Margaret now worked helping at-risk youth. And it was in that same place, in the garden where the chicken coop used to stand, that I asked Emma to marry me. Emma Hartley, I said, kneeling on the green grass, you've changed my life since the first day I saw you. You taught me that true love is about seeing the beauty in someone even when they can't see it in themselves. I took the box from my pocket. Will you marry me and be my family forever? Emma was crying, but it was tears of pure happiness. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Our wedding took place at the Morrison family ranch 6 months later. It was September, and the Colorado mountains were golden with the colors of autumn. Emma was radiant in a simple yet elegant dress, and when we exchanged vows under the infinite blue sky, there wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. Even Margaret was there, crying with joy. Jake Morrison, Emma said during her vows, you found me when I was lost, hugged me when I was broken, and loved me when I couldn't love myself. I promise to spend the rest of my life showing you that your faith in me was not in vain. When we kissed as husband and wife, I felt like my heart was going to explode with happiness. Today, 3 years later, Emma and I have a beautiful daughter named Sarah Rose, honoring our mothers. Emma uses her wealth to help hundreds of at-risk youth through her foundation. Margaret has become a second mother to her, and our daughter lovingly calls her Grandma Maggie. The property where Emma was locked up has become the Thomas Hartley Hope Center, a place where young people who have lost everything can find a new family and a fresh start. And every night, when I tuck our daughter into bed, I tell her the story of how I found her mother. How a cry for help changed our lives forever. How true love can heal any wound. Dad, Sarah Rose always asks, why does Mommy cry when you tell that story? Because, I always answer, sometimes we cry for joy, my love. Mommy cries because she knows she's loved. Emma is always by the bedside when I finish the story, and she always whispers. And I also cry because I know our daughter will never know what it's like to feel invisible. She will grow up knowing she's loved unconditionally. Folks, if you've made it this far, you've lived a complete journey with us. This story shows that no matter how dark your situation is, there's always hope. There's always someone willing to love you for who you are. If this story touched your heart, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear that they are loved. You never know when you might be the Jake in someone's life, or when you might need to be saved like Emma was. And remember, you are worthy of love, you are important, and you are never, ever invisible. Red Heart. Thank you for following our story. See you next time.